Join me as I embark into the pit of degeneracy of games, also known as the adult content category, and make a record of each one I play and rate them according to these following groups. Overall gameplay, would it be worth playing even without the material it contains? How truly degenerate it is, from plain vanilla to even God himself couldn't help us by the time we were done. The goon material quality itself, out of tissues used, and of course, finally, the most important one of any game in this category, the story itself, from picture book to absolute peak fiction. Alright guys, first to go into the records today is going to be, my wife wants to be a professional cosplayer? I don't know why, but it reminds me a lot of an isekai title. But regardless, let's get it started. So it starts us off with a visual novel style prologue, telling us how the main character met the heroine and how they got together pretty much. I really did like the manga panel art direction they went for in this section, and was a bit disappointed there weren't more in the later visual novel portions, which, by the way, contain choices that would typically change what kind of ending you get in games like these. But in this game, regardless of what you choose, you'll pretty much get the same dialogue between the two choices, just slightly different flavor text. What is important though is, they also contain most of the scenes for viewer pleasure that makes us play these games to begin with. Anyways, then we're put into the core gameplay itself. There are two phases throughout each day, morning and night. During the day, we're given 4 different choices on what to have our cash cow do in order to get 2 things. 1, more followers, which is the primary goal we need to meet in order to progress the game, and 2, get money in order to buy her more outfits for our gooning pleasure, or buy items that do various things. I ended up just doing the one where we take her to a photo shoot because it was the easiest and gave a ton of money and followers anyways. However, we do need to be careful, because just like reality, doing these activities can have a negative effect on her mood and stress levels that changes her dialogue and makes her say some pretty interesting gems, like these. I feel like she's calling me out here. I don't have to look at you, Jesus Christ. Too many times, but she made you, holy. All in all, pretty realistic, I'd say. Now then, onto her stats. In the top right corner, we have 4 stats as you can see that we need to keep track of because depending on the numbers, you'll get 1 of 10 endings. There is also an NTR ending that I enabled just to up the stakes, but it ended up not even mattering because all it was a yes or no choice in the end. What I did like though, is that we're given a hint on what the parameters should be at in order to reach each ending. Finally, the night phase of the game, during which we have 5 things we can do in order to make her feel better, both in a mental sense and in a more literal sense. There's really nothing to note other than each choice lowers stress and gains mood differently, but when an option is chosen enough times, you'll be given a CG. That more or less concludes the overall gameplay of My Wife Wants to Be a Cosplayer? Now then, onto the review itself. Overall gameplay, a 3 out of 10 unfortunately. A pretty low score because would I go out of my way to play this game for non-recreational reasons? No. It's not difficult at all, and hitting goals and managing stats in this game is extremely easy, and someone playing games for the first time in their life could beat this game if they wanted to. Normally, as this game has multiple endings, there would at least be some replayability factor to it, but once you've achieved one ending, it unlocks everything, so there's no purpose to continue playing to unlock other endings and CGs. The game itself was obviously made with the sole purpose of gooning, which honestly isn't a bad thing, that's why we play these games to begin with. But I've played some games with surprisingly very good gameplay in this genre, so I know they can do better and will be a bit strict in that. The degeneracy factor. Rejoice, vanilla lovers, because this game would be right up your alley, as there's really no kinky fetishes or crazy scenes that would rumble some tummies, and even the NTR ending isn't even NTR if you somehow accidentally accept the scene, as spoilers, it turns out the NTR scene was just an RP moment between the 2 lovebirds, and even the costumes and positions that are unlocked are pretty safe in the erotic sense. Okay, arguably the most important factor, the goon quality. A solid 5 out of 10 tissues used. Not too shabby, but nothing to write home to either. Because the game itself is so vanilla, there's really no spice and variety in the scenes, but what carries the quality of this category is while the scenes themselves are pretty cliche, they're done quite well. And the art and animation in this game is definitely one of the better ones I've seen in this genre. And of course, all the points will have to go towards the heroine herself. I mean, who doesn't love themselves a hot MILF that just cosplays to what your heart desires? And of course, the inarguable most important factor of games in this genre, the story. Yeah, I'm sure you can more or less tell at this point, but it's not this game's strong suit. I could read this story back to my 4-year-old daughter, emitting the NSFW content, and she would most likely be able to completely understand it start to finish. But if you want a not too complicated, chill, pure love story, this game is absolutely the perfect candidate for it. Overall, I would give this game a solid 6 out of 10. It's honestly pretty average. It does what it sets out to do well, and its core is very polished, but unfortunately there's really nothing of note to say about this game. It only took me 2 hours to completely beat and get all the endings, and maybe I'm just too far gone, but even the CGs didn't do much for me either. However, it's definitely a step above other games in this genre, and for its price point of around $8, it's a solid first entry to the Degen Chronicles. And with that, that concludes entry number 1 of the Degen Chronicles. This was my first ever video. What a way to start a YouTube channel, right? So if there's anything you feel I should do or change, be it editing wise or review wise for the upcoming entries, or maybe even recommend a game for me to play for the next entry, I would love to hear them. Please, seriously, any feedback will do. I need it. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.